My name's Renee, and this is my cash stuffing journey. If you're new here, thank you so much for taking the chance and clicking on this video, and I hope you decide to like, subscribe, and stick around for a while. If you're a returning subscriber, thank you so much for the ongoing support. I really appreciate it. So today might look a little bit different. It's because I've decided to once again shake things up a bit. So usually my filming schedule is 1 week is my pay week, so I do all my cash stuffing, and the following week I do all my savings challenges. Well, to make sure that I'm putting out enough content for everybody, because like two videos a fortnight just didn't feel very it wasn't enough. I wasn't sharing enough. So what I've decided to do is split my fortnightly check into two. So I'm going to be cash stuffing as if I get a weekly paycheck. So that's going to start soon. So to make sure that I still uploaded something on Saturday, I am going to go back to the beginning. I am going to explain step by step, and then I'm going to show you through cash stuffing how my system works. I consider mine a hybrid system. That's what I call it anyway. I basically use a combination of electronic funds and cash stuffing for my budget. Now, this didn't just happen. I didn't just come up with this from the start. This took a lot of trial and error. And I've said this before. The first time I started cash stuffing, I failed so badly. I was overstuffing. I had too many envelopes. I was having to pull out money halfway through the fortnight because there just wasn't enough. And it just wasn't working for me. So when I started it again, I basically broke it right down to the bare bones. I thought about what were my goals and what did I want to achieve. What was the one thing on my mind? And I started out cash stuffing for a savings envelope for our home deposit, an emergency envelope, and one each for my children. That was my 4 goals. That was it. That's what I was wanting to focus on. As I've grown and developed and tweaked things, I now have the system that I work with now. And even then, it's not infallible. There has been times where I've had an unexpected expense and I have had to empty nearly all of my envelopes. And while it was absolutely heartbreaking, and I'm not going to lie, I cried quite a few tears over it, I keep reminding myself, imagine if it wasn't there. Imagine if I wasn't on this journey and I was still living paycheck to paycheck with no money in savings, no one to turn to for financial help. It was literally me and my husband providing for our children. That was it. So if there was no money there, we had to figure it out. Me and Les had to go without meals. We had to go without the things we needed. We had to put off repairs and health needs, and like it was really bad for a while, for actually a very long time. And it's only been since I've been on this journey that we're starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel. But we are nowhere near where we want to be, or where we need to be honest. Like if something major was to happen, we would still probably be up a you-know-what creek without a paddle. Like it would be bad. But this is the system I worked, and it works for me. So I'm hoping that maybe someone can see this, because when I started, I had no idea. I saw two videos on YouTube and that was it. And then I started, and I made a lot of mistakes, probably because I probably didn't research enough or look into it enough. I just kind of went, yep, I can do that. I've been budgeting for years. It's just changing how I do it. But cash budgeting is also about a mindset. Like you have to completely change your mind on how you view money and how you spend. And that can be hard. It can be. But this is the system that I have, and this was what works for me. So I'm hoping that by showing this and going through it step by step, and then showing how it applies to my actual income as we cash stuff going forward this week, that it might help someone else. It might help people find their feet just that little bit quicker. So I consider mine the hybrid system. Now, the first thing I did was track your income. Know exactly how much you're getting and when you're getting it. It's really important to know how much money is coming into the household, because if you don't fully know 100% what is coming in, it makes tracking your expenses and budgeting really hard. At least have a ballpark figure. So what I did, I'm very lucky in that regard. I am on a salary. So each fortnight I get paid, which is 2 weeks. Each fortnight I get paid the same amount every 2 weeks without fail, no matter what, how many hours I work. That only changes if I have a leave day or if I'm on holiday, because I get holiday loading, which is like 17% extra on top because you're on holidays. So that's the only kind of difference in my wage. So I was really lucky in that regard, that I was able to track my income very easily. Okay, track and know your expenses. What I did is I went through 3 months of bank statements. So I went back 3 months and I highlighted all our necessary bills. So things like rent, car payments, debt payments, my son's swimming membership, any like phone bills, anything you can't live without, that it's a necessity. I found out how much it was and on what day it comes out. And then I used a calendar to input that information. Then once I did all that, I did like all of our like daily living expenses. So like groceries, medication, fuel, spending money for the kids, money we spent on family outings and things like that. Then once I had all that, then I went through and found just the things that we were just spending, just money we were generally blowing at like department stores and online. And that gave a really clear indication of where our money was going. Now, once I did that, going to the bank for me is quite difficult. It's a bit of a hassle. It's at least a half an hour trip. And then that's not including the time you spend in the bank trying to find parking. It's a nightmare. So I try and only go once a fortnight. So once every 2 weeks. And that's to pull out what I'm going to be cash stuffing. Everything else is done electronically. So what I'll do is I'll slide this up. Oh, actually, I forgot. And the third thing is, what are your financial goals? What do you want to achieve? What are your main goals? So for me, when I first started this second time, when I was a bit more successful, it was saving for a home, an emergency fund in case something went wrong, and then a savings account for each of my kids. That was what I broke my goals down to. So I wanted to know that if something happened, everything could be taken care of. And it's going to be a slow journey, I know, but I will get there in eventually. So now back to my income came in. All right. So what I did is I went off one way, electronic funds. So anything that comes out electronically, any bills, so rent, car payment, credit card payment, debt payments, phone bills, any subscriptions, it all falls under electronic. Then when I knew what I was paying, I went through and created 11, yes, 11, you heard me right, 11 bank accounts. And this is what they look like. So income. So all of my income, both from me and my husband is a carer for our son and he works from home. So his income is a bit more fluid than mine, and he hasn't really given me permission to talk about his expenses. So I'm just going to speak about them generally as a family expense. But he does receive a government payment for being a carer, and his business is separate to our family income. So our first one is our income. So any money we earn goes into that account. Nothing comes out of it. So I know exactly how much is going in there, and I know exactly what's going to come out. Because previously with our budget, we would have money there and we would be down to our last $200, and all of a sudden a bill would come out that I hadn't remembered, and then we'd be missing $150. So then we'd have to scramble and live on $50. So by doing it this way, I've stopped that. I know exactly what's going in and I'm in control of what's going out. Rent. That one is what I do is part of my salary is something called salary sacrificing. I'm not sure if they do that in the US. They might have something similar. But in Australia, if you work in certain fields, what happens is your employer takes out a portion of your income, then you get taxed on what's left, and then you get that income back. So it's kind of like a tax-free income, kind of. That's the easiest and quickest way I could do to describe it. So I use that salary sacrificing to pay our rent. So that's what pays our rent. So it has its own account. The only payment that goes in there is rent. That's all that comes out. Rent and our water, which is linked to the property. So it all comes out. Then we've got a general spending. So once I've paid all of our bills and I've sent the money to whatever account it belongs, anything that's left is general spending. Now, we generally do one big shop on payday, and then I put aside $100 for the following week for like fruit, vegetables, bread, milk, things like that. But that big shop comes out of this. Anything that the kids need at the time, anything like that will come out of that money. We try and limit what comes out of that money if we can really help it, but there's not that much left over. So that's what goes into that account. Fortnightly expenses. This is things that I pay that are the same amount every fortnight without fail. So putting money onto my son's account, our swimming pool membership, our credit card payment, my car payment, a lay-by, anything that is like that goes into that fortnightly expenses. The same with the monthly ones. It's what do I have to pay that month, and that's what goes in that account, and that's all that comes out of those accounts. So if it's not a fortnightly or a monthly expense, it doesn't come out of there. Annually is things like car registration, trailer registration, rates, any like Christmas, Easter, anything that's a yearly thing, birthday, anything that's going to be a yearly event goes into that account. Now, I do cash stuff, most of those. And when it gets to a certain point, I pull that money out and then put in a placeholder. So home, we are currently saving for our house. So any money for our deposit goes straight into that account. Nothing comes out of it, and it's a bit of a hassle to get money out of it. So only the deposit goes in there. And this is also, it will give us a really good saving history when we do go for a home, because we can just print off the like the statements for that account, and then that's it. That's proof that we've been saving consistently. Savings is part of our savings goals. So anything like emergency, general savings, me, Les, the kids, everything goes in there. Okay. Then each of my children have their own savings account, and then I have a work account, like a business account. So I'll just summarize again. So once my income comes in, I look at my monthly, fortnightly expenses, my rent, and they go, whatever money comes in, I calculate how much I need to take out of that, and that goes into the perspective account. Then whatever's left, that's what I cash stuff with. So I have 4 binders. I have a savings goals, an annual expenses, a savings challenges, and a just roll it in glitter. So my savings goals, actually I'll just pull this out and we can flip through it together. So these are my binders. So I've got things like medication, emergency, savings, deposit has its own account. My kids, they each have their own account. So an individual one for Les, for me, car maintenance, a week ahead, retirement, school expenses. That would all go into that savings goals account, into that savings goals binder. Then annual expenses are things like Easter, Christmas, birthdays, family vacation, car rego. Any annual expense goes into that binder. Then we've got the savings challenges, which is self-explanatory. That's where all my savings challenge money goes, and the majority of my savings challenge money is going into our deposit. And then the just roll it in glitter is a business one, so it's got things like PO box, expenses, postage, taxes. It's not very exciting, but it's a necessity. Now, when I reach a certain amount in each envelope, and for me, for the home deposit, it's $100 because I want to have consistent money going into that home deposit account. It's $100. So every time it reaches $100, I pull that cash out, put a placeholder in. Now, from what I can see, most cash stuffers deposit that money into the bank. And that might work for them. That might be easy. For me, that's a hassle. So what I do is, when I know I'm going to reach $100, when I get paid that next fortnight, I transfer $100 straight into the home account, which is just here, into the home account. I pull the cash out, put a placeholder in, and then I use that cash to do that week's cash stuffing. It's getting a bit complicated, I know. I hope this makes sense, because I'm making this video to try and help people, and I would feel really bad if I just confused everyone and everyone is left going, Renee, what the heck are you talking about? So I hope this makes sense. So I might just do a really quick summary again, and hopefully if you've got any questions, please put them down in the comments. If you're extremely confused, I can try and refilm this, but it is kind of a complex system if you have no kind of idea, but I'm hoping that I'm breaking it down enough that you'll understand. So for example, when I get paid, I figure out how much I have to pay for my fortnightly, monthly, and rent expenses, and then that goes into the perspective account. So my rent goes in my rent account, all my fortnightly expenses go in my fortnightly account, and my monthly expenses go in my monthly account. Okay, then whatever's left, if it's not used for the general spending, because we usually know what we're going to spend in general spending, but it's usually got a set amount in there, then whatever's left, I do my cash stuffing, and it's broken down into 4 categories: savings goals, annual expenses, savings challenges, and a business expense. So I break down my income based on what my goals are for that fortnight. So when they reach a certain amount, so for my home deposit it's $100, for any other envelope it's $500. If I start to feel like maybe they're getting a bit full and I would rather just put a placeholder in, like maybe when it gets to $250, I will do the same thing. I will pull the cash out, I will put a placeholder in. On my next closest paycheck, I will transfer $250 from my pay, and I will use that $250 to cash stuff. So for example, say if I need $500 to fill all my envelopes how I would like, but one of the envelopes is at $250, I would only withdraw $250 from the bank, because I'm going to have $250 in cash, because I transferred it out of my account into whichever account that applies for, and then I only need the $250 cash because I've got it there. I hope this makes sense. I feel like I made it a bit complicated. Let me know in the comments if this is complicated, and I will try and refilm it again or break it down even further. So after this video, I'm gonna do my budget with me, and this will kind of explain how I do this a bit more. So it would be really helpful if you watch this video first and then the cash stuffing. Okay, thanks guys. Remember to live, laugh, love, and when life gets hard, just roll it in glitter. Bye.